Revealed, the sinister rules of the cursed warehouse night shift that haunt new employees. Mia's heart raced as she approached the crumbling warehouse, a monument to the town's faded glory. The promise of easy money was overshadowed by the chill running up her spine. "They say once you're in, it's hard to get out," whispered an unseen voice in her memory. A thick fog wrapped around her, and she stood before a hulking structure, its dark windows like soulless eyes watching her approach. She took a deep breath. No turning back now. Inside, the fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting spectral shadows that danced across the concrete floor. The air felt heavy, charged with a sinister energy. Workers scurried about, shifting boxes with unnerving efficiency, their faces void of emotion. They murmured to each other in hushed tones, exchanging glances that danced along the edge of fear. "Never make eye contact with the shadows," one warned, his voice trembling. Another added as if it were a sacred truth, "Stay away from the old storage room." At first, Mia dismissed it as typical workplace paranoia. She needed this job. Bills were piling up, and Ethan was relying on her. But when a chill gripped her heart and shadows flickered at the corners of her vision, she couldn't shake a sense of impending doom. As night wore on, the whispers grew louder, each hushed breath prickling her skin. She glanced around nervously, noticing how the others worked in a trance, eyes glazed and distant. What were they listening to? The air crackled with a tension that made her stomach churn until she felt a pull compelled to discover the truth. She stumbled into a hidden room, its entrance concealed behind stacked crates. Inside, the musty air clung to her like a vice. Dusty mementos lay scattered about, old photographs of smiling employees, headlines screaming of accidents and disappearances, the town's dark past clawing its way back to life. She felt a cold sweat trickle down her back. Each article seemed to whisper secrets, pleading not to be forgotten. Just then, the clock chimed midnight, and a jolt of panic erupted within her. Shadows moved with unnatural speed, darting between her coworkers like restless ghosts. They swayed, caught in a dark rhythm, their eyes unblinking and empty. Mia's heart raced, realization dawning upon her: the whispers were growing arrogant, consuming everything in their wake. They weren't just rules, they were commands. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Mia's breath hitched in her throat while she stumbled back, her instincts screaming for her to flee. Bile rose as she considered the tales she'd uncovered. She couldn't allow Ethan's life to become part of this nightmare. But the warehouse owner appeared, a slick smile twisting his lips, his eyes glinting with a malevolent light. "You'll see," he said, voice smooth as glass. "We're all part of something much greater here." Her gut churned, and fear clawed at her insides. What lay waiting in the depths of this cursed place? Time was running short, the shadows loomed, eager to keep their secrets buried. With every heartbeat, Mia felt the weight of the warehouse pressing down, both alluring and terrifying. Would she be just another lost soul, another footnote in its violent history? As the whispers escalated, swelling into a deafening crescendo, she knew one thing: escape was no longer a choice, it was a race against darkness. Just what would she sacrifice to protect her son? The shadows beckoned, but Mia had to decide if she would succumb or fight back. Mia stumbled deeper into the hidden room as the whispers surged, blurring the line between panic and resignation. The warehouse owner stepped forward, his shadow stretching like a grotesque hand reaching for her. "You can't escape, Mia," he said, each word laden with a sinister patience. "They need you." Need her? She couldn't understand. A frantic energy gripped her, propelling her to push past him, to break free from this veil of dread. Her heart thundered as she raced toward the exit, the shadows closing in behind her. But the warehouse groaned, as if alive, shifting its walls to confine her. Panic clawed at her throat like a hand squeezing the breath from her lungs. "Don't fight it," echoed a voice, familiar yet alien. One of her co-workers stood at the room's entrance, eyes wide and fearful. "You have to join us. They won't let you leave." Mia's mind reeled. She fumbled for the door, but a flicker of movement caught her eye. Rows of disembodied faces reflected in the metallic shards littering the floor. Each one a hollow silhouette, haunting reminders of the employees she'd seen earlier. They were all part of this twisted puzzle, bound by a fate she felt creeping closer. She dodged around her coworker, a chorus of whispers urging them forward, pulling them into an unseen force. "They're waiting for you," he pleaded, a desperate echo of her own fear. "It's too late for me. Don't let them take you." Frantic, Mia lunged for the exit, adrenaline surging through her veins. The moment she reached the door, it slammed shut with a deafening bang, locking her in darkness. The fluorescent lights flickered, plunging the room into a strobe rhythm that echoed her racing heartbeat. "Welcome back," the warehouse owner's voice slithered through the air. "You've always belonged to them." Out of the shadows, figures moved with unnatural grace, the lost souls of past workers, their faces twisted in agony. They hovered closely, mirroring her every breath, echoing the fear that gnawed at her sanity. "Join us," they chanted, their voices melding into a disturbing harmony that sent shivers crawling down her spine. Mia turned, pressed against the door, the cold metal biting into her back. If they succeeded in dragging her into their dance, would she become just another ghost haunting the corners of this accursed place? Her mind raced with clawing images of Ethan, his innocent face twisted into fear. "No!" she gasped, pushing against the door as the voices crescendoed. "You won't take me." The warehouse shuddered, as if struck by her defiance. The flickering light steadied momentarily, casting a smattering of clarity across the room. In that fleeting moment, she spotted a glimmer, a narrow window not far from her escape route. With a final surge of strength, she dashed forward, launching herself at the glass. It budged, revealing a thin sliver of moonlight and the night beyond. But the shadows surged forward, an almost tangible wave, binding her feet to the spot. "Leave her!" A new voice rang out, slicing through the commotion like a knife. An elderly figure emerged from the darkness, eyes burning with a strange light. "She has a choice. To break the curse or become one of us." Mia's heart pounded as the chaos swirled around her. Could she truly escape? Or would the shadows claim another? Would she find the strength to confront this twisted legacy, or was she doomed to join the ranks of the lost? In that moment of uncertainty, the room pulsed with expectation, and Mia knew she had to make her decision, before the darkness swallowed her whole. Mia hesitated, the flickering lights casting eerie shadows on the walls. The elderly figure's presence was a strange sliver of hope, but the palpable dread still clung to her. She focused on his face, weathered but resolute. "Break the curse." She echoed, the words tasting foreign on her tongue. "Your choice," he repeated, urgency seeping into his tone. "Join them or fight back. But know this isn't merely about escaping." He gestured toward the disembodied faces. "Their pain is your pain now." The shadows slithered, reaching with cold, dark fingers. They seemed to pulse with hunger, growing stronger with each moment she deliberated. The voices grew louder, drowning out her thoughts. Join us, make your choice, Mia." The old man shouted, his voice breaking through the cacophony. An unsettling calm washed over her, a feeling she hadn't faced in the chaos. Was it resignation? Or clarity? "Fight!" A whisper came from the darkened figures. It was stronger, louder than the others. A stark challenge. The weight of years, no, centuries of despair pressed around her. With a sudden determination, Mia stepped back from the door, defiance rising inside her. "I refuse to become part of you," she yelled, a confession of will and fear. At that moment, the air thickened, the energy shifting from desperation to something sharp. The shadows recoiled for an instant, retreating as if burned by her words. The old man's gaze brightened. Yes. Embrace your anger. Bolstered by his encouragement, she turned to face the figures anew. You think I will give in? I will break your hold. Her breath came fast, adrenaline coursing through her veins like fire. She charged towards the nearest shadow, fueled by a reckless impulse, and slammed her hands against it. The darkness quivered but didn't dissolve. Instead, a scream shattered the air, sharp and haunting. It was a collective echo of anguish, and Mia felt it claw at her soul. The weight of every worker's despair crashed down upon her like a wave, threatening to drag her beneath the tide. Don't! The old man warned, rushing forward, but Mia gritted her teeth against the pain. She fought through the confusion, holding on to her memories of Ethan, of light and laughter and safety. Enough! She screamed, more to herself than the shadows. I am not your puppet. The warehouse trembled again, the walls groaning as if it were alive. For a heartbeat, everything froze. A silence fell, heavy and potent. The shadows hung back, as if waiting. Watching her closely, then, without warning, the air echoed with a guttural growl that made her skin crawl. An unseen entity seemed to rise, revealing its monstrous form. You think you can defy us? Every instinct urged her to flee, but she summoned all her strength and took a step forward. I can, and I will. The shadows surged like a tidal wave, crashing toward her. Mia braced herself, heart pounding a frantic rhythm as desperation clawed at her once more. But she wouldn't let them consume her. Not today. Remember this moment. The old man shouted. You either break free, or you join them. The shadows lunged, reaching for her with a frenzied desperation. Mia felt the room pulsate, and in that moment of truth, she realized the choice was never just about leaving. It was about confronting her own darkness. With a final, deep breath, she closed her eyes and plunged herself into the shadow, hoping to unravel its twisted essence. Everything went black. When Mia opened her eyes again, she was no longer in the warehouse. She found herself standing in an eerie mist, where the silhouettes of her coworkers stood still waiting. Something far darker loomed behind them, and Mia's lips went dry. The true horrors of the darkness ahead lay in wait. Had she truly escaped, or only stepped deeper into the nightmare? The mist enveloped Mia like a thick blanket, stifling and cold, with each breath tasting of dread. She blinked, the haze swirling in front of her, and the faces began to take shape. Her coworkers, once familiar and comforting during their shifts, now appeared warped and frozen in expressions of terror. They stood like living statues, eyes wide but unseeing, their mouths moving silently as if trapped in an eternal scream. Mia's heart raced, pounding harshly against her ribcage. Ethan! She called, desperation tinging her voice. No response. Only shifting shadows loomed behind her colleagues, thick and serpentine, whispering secrets in tongues she couldn't decipher. She took a step closer, her feet dragging through the damp ground beneath her. Something shifted within her chest. A heavy weight washed over her, a realization laced with terror. All this time, she had fought against the shadows, but there was something deeper intertwining with her fear. Had her struggle truly saved her, or had she merely walked into a darker prison? Suddenly, one of the figures stirred. A woman, eyes glazing over with familiarity, though now touched by despair. Mia, she croaked, voice cracking like brittle glass. You shouldn't have come here. You have to turn back. Megan? Mia gasped, the connection sparking fleeting memories of their shared laughter in the break room. But the vibrant life was gone from Megan's eyes. What happened to you? They won't let us go, the woman whispered, her eyes darting over Mia's shoulder. We're part of them now. You can't win, none of us can. We joined no. Mia shouted, the word flinging herself against her better judgment. I won tea. The shadows behind Megan slithered closer, eager tendrils beckoning her to succumb to collective despair. Please, Megan rasped, a flicker of what once was becoming evident. Don't let them take you. Fight it. Fight them. The shadows squirmed angrily, like a wounded beast disturbed. They howled in resentment, resonating with the echoes of Mia's past. With anguish pooling in her stomach, Mia turned her back on Megan. She couldn't afford to be lost to the spectral maw of darkness. She had to find a way to separate herself from the others, from this cursed entanglement. Pushing onward, she breathed deeply, summoning the resolve she had grasped in the warehouse. "Stay away from me!" she screamed, her voice rising above the mournful wails that surrounded her. "I will not be part of your darkness." The ground shook violently, sending her reeling as the shadows surged in response, their cries rising to a fever pitch. Did they sense her power? Did they fear her defiance? "Mia!" The voice was guttural now, commanding. The monstrous form she had sensed before loomed nearer, pressing against the boundary of her heart. "You are one of us. You cannot escape what you are." The weight of those words crashed over her like a wave. She staggered, grasping at nothing, feeling the essence of their despair seep into her bones. That haunting truth stirred an internal battle. The old man's words echoed back, "You join them or fight." Just then, a blinding light flickered ahead. It pierced through the dense fog, illuminating a path that twisted away from the darkness. Hope sprang in her chest as she strained her eyes into the radiance. The shadows recoiled violently, their whispers turning into a cacophony, desperate and chaotic. "Run, Mia!" A voice urged, not Megan, but familiar, since she had heard it in her heart. It was Ethan, urging her back to what mattered. Mia took off, the light guiding her through the phantoms, racing toward salvation. But as she ran, she felt them closing in, fingers of darkness grasping hungrily at her heels. Would the illumination hold the power to save her, or draw her deeper into the abyss? As she crossed into the light, a deafening roar shattered the air behind her. The shadows erupted with fury, and for a moment, the world tilted dangerously. Would this be her escape or her final fall? The blinding glow engulfed her, as she felt an ominous presence close in from every side, tightening its grip. What would become of her in this perilous battle against the darkness that wove through the very fabric of her reality? The air changed instantly, cold and electric as Mia stumbled into the light. It felt like stepping from a tomb into dawn, but the sensation was deceiving. She gasped for breath, the icy fog lingering at the edges, a specter of despair bidding its time. "Keep moving." Ethan's voice cut through her haze, firm and clear. She turned to run but stopped short. He was not with her. The light flickered, dim flickers cast dancing shadows that ballooned and curled, fingers reached after her. The pulse of darkness throbbed behind her like a wild beast, hungry. "What are you waiting for?" Ethan screamed again, his voice now disembodied. She couldn't see him, couldn't find her footing amidst a ground that seemed to shift constantly beneath her feet. "You need to find your second chance, Mia. They're coming." The shadows coiled behind her, relentless whispers rising like a storm. She felt dread pooling in her belly again, every terrifying word echoed, join us how? How did she escape this prison of dread and whispers? Panic seized her, icy fingers darting up her spine. Turning back was no longer an option. Just ahead, where the light hadn't yet surrendered to encroaching dark, strange shapes flickered. They were writhing horrors clothed in shadows, each a testament to previous victims who had failed their trials. Each face twisted in despair was once like her, vibrant and alive, now stilled in horror. "Don't look," Ethan insisted, and the urgency in his voice snapped her focus back to the blinding light. She could feel it, the warmth, the hope, the very essence of life far removed from this fear. Mustering her strength, Mia darted forward, every muscle screaming against fatigue and fear. Each step felt like wading through thick mud as the shadows clawed at her ankles. Heavy tendrils circled her, squeezing tighter with every push forward. But she wouldn't buckle. "I am not yours," she shouted, her defiance roared louder as she lunged again for the light. Then, the ground rumbled, and everything shifted. The blinding light pulsated as though it were alive, throbbing like her heart. each heartbeat a desperate plea for survival. Shadows emerged from the depth, thick, gnarly hands lunging from the mist, gripping at her throat, her hair. Mia gasped, the air sucked from her lungs. "Fight, Mia. Fight!" Ethan's voice echoed in a frantic pitch as she grasped at the light, its warmth imbued with all the love she needed. The shadows recoiled as she felt a surge of raw energy. It was enough, she screamed, unleashing her fury, steadying herself against the grasp of despair. If this path led her to the truth, she would seize it. She refused to believe in the whispers of bondage, of surrender. The shadows shrieked, their sinister serenade now shrill and defunct against her courage. Light surged around her, reflecting the flicker of memories, her laughter at work, smiles exchanged, the simplest joys of mundane life. Suddenly, she was back in the break room sharing coffee, visions of warmth blasting forth through the bitter cold. Reality became her weapon, bursting in defiance against darkness, but as she pushed forward through the protective glow, the warm embrace began to pulse with uncertainty. The light flickered erratically, a warning against her blind trust. She faltered, confusion creeping in as the dimness surged with renewed vigor. "Ethan," she whispered, her heart racing. A muted echo of dread started taking hold. "Where are you?" A sudden freezing chill swept through, the shadows shrieked in unity. They knew something she didn't. The light seemed to dim again, and she glimpsed behind her, primal fear blooming anew as she caught a telltale flicker of movement, a figure shifting beyond the shadows, cloaked in obscurity. Someone, or something, was coming for her. Would she ever really escape the nightmare? Far off, a chilling laugh hurtled through the fog, wrapping around her like chains. "Welcome home, Mia." And the darkness surged on, an unholy tide eager to reclaim what it had lost. Mia's heart thudded in her chest as dread coiled tighter around her. The laughter echoed, chilling her to the bone. She peered into the encroaching shadows, searching for any sign of Ethan, but the light pulsed with a sinister duality, offering both refuge and torment. "Ethan!" she cried out, her voice breaking. But it was met with silence, stretching out into the depths of her mounting fear. Every instinct screamed to turn and run, but where could she go? The light flickered again, and for a moment, it threatened to extinguish completely. She pushed against that darkness, knowing it would drag her into its depths if she wasn't careful. "Mia!" At last, a glimmer of hope. Ethan's voice closer this time but still distant, barely a thread against the tempest. There was no time to waver. She couldn't let the shadows claim her hope, her memories, her future. Mia clamped her eyes shut and summoned every ounce of strength she had left. The faces of despair, once seen, clawed at her mind, but she wouldn't bow. As she pushed further into the light, she felt it shift, pulling her, guiding her. Suddenly, a searing pain ripped through her shoulder, a clutch of cold fingers digging in deep. She gasped, slamming her eyes open to the writhing mass of shadows. They were alive, angry, and intent on dragging her down into the depths of lost souls. "No!" she screamed, thrashing away, but they clung with a ferocity she hadn't anticipated. "Let go of her." Ethan's voice rang again, fierce and protective. The shadows recoiled slightly, as though stung. "Mia! Head towards the sound." She fought with everything in her, channeling her fear into anger. With one last desperate push, she broke free, sprinting forward into the warmth of the light. The dark shrieked in retaliation. An ear-splitting cacophony of rage and despair that made her ears throb. Just as she reached Ethan, the light shimmered and spun, then abruptly collapsed in a blink. She was enveloped in darkness again, the shadows swirling like a storm. She gasped, the air thick and debilitating. Dread filled every crevice of her being. "Ethan! I'm here. Just trust me." The invocation of his voice steadied her pulse. She felt the warmth beside her. Ethan's presence was a tether. They were together. But then, the shadows shifted, and dark whispers materialized on the edges of her consciousness. "You're not free, Mia. You will never escape." The weight of rejection crashed over her. She shut her eyes tight against the hopeless voices that haunted her, threatening to drag her back into the whispering void. She clung to Ethan. Suddenly, a blinding light erupted from deep within, illuminating the shadows. "What is happening?" Mia gasped as the echoing laughter morphed into howls of anguish. "It's trying to separate us," Ethan shouted, and in that moment, she felt the shadows tearing at their bond, trying to pull them apart, each grasping tendril reaching for her soul. Gripped by panic, Mia cried, "We can't let it win." With one final surge of willpower, she grasped Ethan's hand tight, drawing from the light around them. Together, they forced the shadows to recede, the air coming alive with flickering sparks of hope. But just as victory seemed within reach, an enormous shadow materialized, an overwhelming presence dwarfing them, crouching low as it locked its sight on Mia. It pulled back, revealing the tortured faces of all those taken before her. "Mia!" Ethan yelled, fear amplifying the urgency in his voice. As Mia took in the horror, her breath hitched. "What is it?" They stood on the precipice of something far more sinister than simple darkness. The very air felt charged with malevolence. "It wants a sacrifice, Mia." Ethan's eyes widened with realization. And as the revelation struck, energy crackled, sucking the warmth away. A choking fear clutched at her throat as the laughter returned, more sinister and insatiable. "Make your choice." The darkness roared, a guttural demand. Would she have to choose between herself and Ethan? Sweat dripped down her back, freezing on contact as the shadows surged once more, desperate to consume her soul. And in that moment, she felt the weight of salvation and doom pressing down on her. "Mia, remember the rules." Ethan yelled, but the shadows screamed louder. What rules? What was the price of their escape? As the darkness closed in, the chilling laughter echoed a final time, taunting them both. And in that terrifying instant, Mia realized every choice they made from then on would lead them deeper into the unyielding grip of despair. Suddenly, a voice whispered in her ear, promising freedom or total annihilation. Choose or be lost forever. Her heart pounded with the gravity of the choice before her. The weight of her decision threatened to crush her as the shadows encircled them. What would she sacrifice to escape? Mia's mind raced. What rules? She yelled, panic clawing at her throat. The shadows twisted around her, hot breath on her skin. Ethan's grip tightened on her hand. She couldn't let go, but she felt the darkness seep into her bones, its cold tendrils reaching inward, probing her deepest fears. Listen. Ethan yelled, urgency painted across his face. We need to remember what they said before. It's the only way to break free. But what had been said? She racked her brain as the shadows pressed in like a vice, eager to turn her thoughts to despair. Ethan, I can't focus, Mia. Remember the stories. What did they say about the sacrifices? The darkness roared, its voice a cacophony of rage and sorrow. Sacrifice must be made. One will go free, the other will remain. It laughed deep, rumbling notes filled with bitterness. Her heart sank. Memories flooded her mind, whispers from the employees, vague warnings about the warehouse, something about a curse, a choice. But the details were murky, clouded by fear. Each attempt to grasp them was thwarted by the shadow's pressing weight. What if we both choose each other? Mia suggested breathlessly. What if we both know? Ethan interjected, his voice rising above the chaos. It's too late for that. The darkness wants you to think you can escape together. It's a lie. You have to choose. Save yourself. I don't want to lose you. Mia cried, feeling the icy fingers of despair curl around her heart. Listen to me. Ethan's eyes blazed with determination. You have to believe in the light. Choose it. Don't be afraid. With every ounce of will she possessed, Mia closed her eyes against the encroaching despair and focused on the warmth that had flickered between them. I choose, but before she could finish the words, the darkness screamed, a tidal wave of anguish crashing over her. You cannot choose him. He is not yours to save. Mia staggered, the tyranny of shadows pressing against her mind. She tried to grasp the threads of light from her memory, but the shadows snarled, pulling her back, promising unending torment. No! She shouted defiantly. I refuse to give in. Ethan, I choose you. The darkness seemed to freeze at her declaration, a momentary silence cascading like stars falling in reverse. Then, with a ferocity unlike anything she felt, the shadows shrieked, and the ground beneath them trembled. Ethan's grip transformed, warmth spreading as light poured between them. Hold on! He bellowed. In that instant, she felt their connection surge, a lifeline amid a storm. But the shadow beast surged again, roaring with the agony of the faces trapped within its depths. One will be lost. It thundered, rage spiraling like a dark vortex. No! Mia screamed. She grabbed Ethan's hand tighter, overwhelmed by fear but also a spark of unyielding hope. We want to let you take us. The air crackled with energy as the bond between them shimmered, battling the darkness's might. Why must there be a loss? Mia cried, desperation spilling from her heart. Can't we break free together? Impossible. The darkness howled, a rattle in its tone revealing cracks in its confidence. But still, its grip pulled relentlessly, seeking to consume. Suddenly, a flash of memories surged through Mia's mind, images of others who dared to resist. Faces drawn tight with fear. Voices echoing warnings, promises, lives intertwined. You hold the strength in your heart. One whispered, the shadows writhed, almost as if recoiling from the intensity of her resolve. Mia, don't break. Focus. Ethan urged, his voice raw with pain, but she could feel it, hope blending with despair into a hard resolve. Then let our choice be to fight. She declared, igniting whatever flame of rebellion still flickered within. We want to give you what you want. The ground shook violently as the monster roared in fury, but with every word, she felt the light race through her veins. The faces trapped within the shadows pleaded for her strength, urging her on. Together. Ethan shouted, his spirit unmistakable. They drew upon each other's courage, intertwined, defying the darkness. But the menacing shadow wasn't done. It didn't want to yield. In a deafening clash of light and dark, a new wave of energy surged, pushing against the shadow's insatiable hunger. Choose now. It bellowed, desperation crawling into its voice. Or be lost forever. Mia felt her heart race. The choice wasn't just for survival, it was for everything they held dear. Within that moment, the power of her connection with Ethan felt tangible and electrifying. Mia. Ethan pulled her focus back to him, eyes filled with intensity. There's no time left. We have to decide. In that pulse of chaos, one question flickered in her mind. Was losing everything worth finding a way to save them both? Mia. Choose. And as shadows swirled and the ground threatened to give way beneath them, she understood the weight of what was at stake. What was the value of freedom if it came at the cost of love? Could she truly sacrifice anything to escape this nightmare? Mia. Ethan trailed off, his voice cracking under the pressure. As she stared into the swirling depths, the answer hung heavy in the air, waiting, taunting her to make a choice that could redefine everything. Would her heart lead her to salvation or creeping destruction? The ground beneath them shook mercilessly, a violent reminder of the chaos that surrounded them. Mia's pulse thundered in her ears, her breath coming in sharp, frantic bursts. Panic gripped her as she stared into Ethan's eyes. They were filled with light, a beacon amid the dense dark. But the shadows were creeping back, long tendrils of darkness swirling at their feet, whispering promises of torment and despair. Think, Mia. Ethan shouted, urgency laced with desperation. What did the others say? There's a way to shift the balance. His eyes darted, scanning the darkness as if it held the answers they desperately needed. Mia clutched his hand tighter, feeling his warmth waver as the chill of shadows crept up her arms. I can't remember. The shadows slithered closer, the monster-esque growls vibrating through the air. It feels like a dream, and I can't wake up. Suddenly, an almost forgotten voice echoed in her mind, a whispering warning from a past employee. To break the curse, you must confront the truth of your own desire. Choices weigh heavy, the heart knows what it wants. Mia. Ethan's voice sliced through her thoughts, pulling her back from the brink of despair. What do you want? The question struck her like a bolt of lightning, sending clarity rushing through her veins. Suddenly, images flared to life, shadows and screams, but also laughter, fleeting moments of joy, their time spent together. She remembered all they had fought against, how they inspired strength in one another. I want us to be free. She cried. I want to escape this darkness with you. Together. The shadows trembled, pausing momentarily. Together. It echoed, surprise tinged with malice. One must be sacrificed, you cannot escape unscathed. No. Mia shouted in defiance, her voice ringing with determination. That's what you want us to believe. Ethan squeezed her hand, his resolve igniting her own. That's right. Maybe we can reconceptualize the sacrifice. If it's about choice, then we make it our choice, alter the rule. The shadows recoiled as if struck. You think your ideas can change the ancient laws? Foolish mortals. Shrieked the darkness, cascading around them, but Mia could feel it. The strength of their bond felt like a counterweight to the shadows. Every moment spent together, all the laughter and the warmth existed in this struggle. Mia. Ethan yelled, desperation flooding his voice again. Remember. We must be honest about our fears. It's the only way to transform this shadowed prison. What was she afraid of? The memories surged, her childhood, masked faces in her dreams, the looming dread of being left behind, all merging with the fear of what would happen to Ethan. I'm scared. Scared that I'll lose you. Scared that nothing will ever be the same. Her voice trembled, and she felt the shadows gripping at her, hungry for that fear. Ethan's grip tightened, his voice softening, that fear. It's what they feed on. But our light, it's real. We can fight, together, through the fears that tether us. With that yearned connection pulsing through her, Mia closed her eyes again, drawing a deep breath, steadying herself. I'm not afraid anymore. She declared, her voice steadying. I don't want to live in fear of losing the things I cherish. I want to fight for our freedom. The darkness beckoned, howling in rage, but for the first time, Mia felt it waver. The swirling shadows paused, and in that moment, she felt the vibrant warmth of their connection. Together then. Ethan shouted. Their intertwined hands glowed, casting beams of light against the darkness. Yet, as they confronted the shadows, a chilling proposition cut through the air. You may choose, but no, a heart's truth casts shadows of its own. The sacrifice is unyielding. The ground beneath them splintered, fissures opening like jagged mouths thirsting for their essence. Mia felt the floor tremble violently, fear rushing back in. Was their choice going to lead to freedom, or would it swallow them whole? What must we face to prove our truth? She cried, hope battling against despair. And just like that, the ground tore open. Wider. Ethereal whispers slithered into her ears, begging her to accept the darkness. Mia. Ethan yelled, pulling her back from the rim of despair. We can confront whatever comes from our hearts, together. But with a chilling laugh, the shadows threw them to the edge. The darkness surged anew, a cataclysmic wave, crashing around them like a tempest. Choose. The shadows roared, tainting the air with dread. Faced with the overwhelming tide, would they truly find a way to shift the curse? Or would their defiance plunge them deeper into the abyss, forever lost among the damned? Time ticked agonizingly as they clung to each other, the precipice looming above them, both uncertain and afraid of what awaited. The darkness had one more move to play. Would they be ready for the truth, whatever form it took? The abyss churned, dark and relentless, as tendrils of shadow wrapped around Mia and Ethan, pulling them closer to the brink. The whispers, so soft but penetrating, sounded like long-lost friends beckoning them into the void. Each word edged with a sinister tone, egging them on, promising release through surrender. Mia's heart raced as Ethan's grip intensified, warmth battling against the cold. "What if this is it?" she whispered, dread pooling in her stomach. "What if we can't hold on?" "No." Ethan's voice surged, fighting against the encroaching panic. "We're more than this. We're not just roads for their shadows to roam." The earth quaked again, a warning bell clamoring insistently. They looked down at the gaping fissures, darkness pulsating like a heartbeat, and she felt his presence pulling her back, anchoring her. "It wants our fear, Mia. We need to give it something else. It thrives on despair." Ethan shouted, his voice thick with urgency. "Then we'll give it hope." She countered, struggling to affirm her words against the tide of shadows. "What if our hope is what scares it the most?" In that moment, luminous memories flooded her mind, the carefree laughter of a warm summer day, candles flickering in joyous celebration, their shared smiles lighting the air between them. They weren't just memories of fear, they were images of pure, untainted joy. "Stay with me, Mia," Ethan urged, eyeing the shadows creeping ever closer to their feet. "Let us remember what we fought for. Our hopes, our dreams, they're stronger than this darkness." Mia's pulse thundered as she let the memories wash over her, filling her with a courage she hadn't known existed. She felt the shadows recoil at the strength of her focus. "And our fears?" she said, voice steadying. "We can confront those, too." "Yes." Ethan's enthusiasm sparked through her. "Let us face them together. Our fears can't control us because they're part of us." The darkness wailed, an anguished cry that reverberated through the air. The shadows darted backward, struggling against the onslaught of their united will. Every echoing pain and past trauma twisted like a specter behind them, but instead of shivering away, Mia let them surface. "I feared betrayal," she admitted, feeling the shadow claw at her heart. "But together, we rise above it." "I feared failing you," Ethan echoed, his voice reverberating with conviction. "But you're my strength." As their heartfelt statements collided with the shadows, light flickered from their intertwined hands, growing with every truth spoken. Fissures beneath their feet began to glow, illuminating the darkness. "Feed on this," Mia roared, channeling the strength of their truths into a swirling beams of radiant light. The shadows flared, caught in this new power. But the darkness was relentless. It hissed back, "You think this will change your fate? How naive." The ground split wider, an ear-splitting roar against the clarion of their resolve. It was becoming harder to hold on to this new truth, the chaos clawing at their sanity as well as the earth beneath them. "There is something it's hiding, something deeper," Ethan shouted, striving to keep their light aglow. "We need to expose its every fear." But suddenly, a piercing silence enveloped them. The surging darkness froze, caught in that moment of hesitation. They stared wide-eyed, confusion spreading across their faces. Ethan's voice trembled slightly, "If we push too far, what will we uncover?" The question echoed between them, pregnant with dread. What if the truth wasn't just their fears, but something horrific waiting in the shadows? Something about them? With shadows swirling around, each whisper became more intense, each call digging deeper into their essence. Was that truly a reflection of them, or was it the darkness molding their souls to fit its agenda? As fear gnawed at them again, the ground rumbled, threatening to swallow their newfound truths. The chilling sensation of something lurking just beyond the depth loomed over them, sending shivers down their spines. What if they were about to uncover the terrifying truth that would send them spiraling into the depths, lost forever? "Mia!" Ethan shouted, panic lacing his tone. "We must prepare for whatever comes next." As time hung heavy in the air, they realized they stood on a knife's edge, facing an unimaginable terror cloaked in shadows. Would revealing the truth be their salvation or their doom? Mia's heart thundered in her chest as she faced the encroaching shadows, swirling like a tempest around her and Ethan. Their desperate bond flickered like a wavering candle, but as the darkness clawed for their souls, a fierce determination ignited within her. This was the moment she had to confront the truth that had been lurking just beyond the edges of her consciousness. "Together, we face this," she declared, her voice strong against the cacophony of whispers that clawed at her mind. Ethan nodded, an unwavering glimmer of faith in his eyes. "Yes, Mia. Every fear that threads through us can be transformed into strength. Let us show them our light." Mia felt the shadows jerk back, as if afraid of the power they were awakening. She focused all her energy on Ethan's words, his vision melded with hers. "I am not just a name on their list," she shouted into the void, the fire of rebellion bubbling up inside. "I am a mother. I will not let you take my child." The shadows recoiled, their whispers turning from sinister hisses to anguished wails. "You will pay," they screamed, furious at her defiance. "You will lose everything, just like the rest." "No." Mia roared back, infusing her words with fierce clarity. "I have lost enough. I refuse to be another ghost in your eternal darkness." She thought of Ethan's smile, his laughter, everything that anchored her to life beyond the warehouse's curse. "Face your own truth." The monster simmered, its presence shaking the ground beneath them, desperate to reclaim its dominion. "You're here because you belong to the shadows. You chose this." But Mia felt the warmth surging again, the joy of her memories igniting the very fabric of her being. "I choose love, not despair. I choose hope, not surrender." The light intensified around them, glowing fiercely as past traumas unwound before their eyes. "I feared losing you," Ethan echoed, keeping the connection alive. "But I also fear living without the light of our dreams." "Exactly," Mia said, her breath coming in fervent bursts. The shadows twisted and screamed, voices drowning one another as desperation clawed at their power. "It feeds off your doubts, Mia. Face them," Ethan urged, sweat beading on his forehead, pushing against the shadows' weight. "Don't shield it, accept them." The shadows hurled forward, snapping violently, but something shifted. "I feared abandonment," she cried, eyes watering in the face of recognition. "But I choose not to carry that alone. We face it together." "Together," Ethan affirmed, his grip tightening. The light flared even brighter, a protective shield against the darkness that surrounded them. Just as the shadows recoiled, a chilling laugh erupted, vibrating through the air. "Then you shall be lost forever." It howled, a sound of despair that echoed terrifyingly. But the truth they had unveiled had stripped the shadows of their strength. Mia felt a pull, an urging to release the anger and pull in the threads of light coiling between them. "If it is fear of the unknown, then we embrace the unknown," she shouted, her voice booming defiantly as the shadows began to shrink away. "Let them come," Ethan added, raising their joined hands high. "We will not be shackled by fear." The shadows shrieked as if threatened. They knew they were losing power, and in a final, desperate strike, they surged towards Mia and Ethan, darkness swirling to engulf them, but with fierce determination, Mia broke through the grip of despair, letting the light illuminate her heart. "You will not take us." With one final surge of will, she stepped forward into the light, Ethan beside her, their hearts beating as one. The shadows writhed and twisted, screeching as rays of hope pierced through. "No. This cannot be." It thundered, erupting in a furious storm as the light enveloped them, tearing apart the tendrils of darkness with blinding intensity. And just like that, the warehouse, the shadows, and the endless whispers came crashing down around them, disintegrating into nothingness. Mia gasped, the fear seeping away as the light embraced them fully, cocooning their very souls. "Ethan!" She cried, electricity coursing through her body as she felt them returning to reality. They burst through the surface light, returning with a rush of freedom so powerful it made her heart soar. I'm here. Ethan's voice rang true, clear as day. They stood together, the warehouse far behind them, collapsing like a house of cards, crumbling into the abyss from which it had drawn its strength. The air was warm, and the night sky gleamed with stars, casting a serene glow over their newfound existence. They were free. As laughter bubbled up from deep within, they held each other tight, letting go of everything that had tethered them to despair. Mia breathed in the fresh night air, relief flooding her senses. Ethan, we did it. She marveled, tears of joy welling up. We broke the curse. We created our own truth, he admitted, grinning wide. And we faced the darkness together. Together. The word sank deep inside her, leaving a warmth that radiated through her core. Their hearts swelling with possibilities, they turned to leave behind the haunted memories and reclaim their lives, renewed hopes guiding their way. Don't let another moment slip away. You need to subscribe now to get exclusive stories like this one. Remember to smash that like button now to spread the word and feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with all your thoughts and theories about the ending. What do you think lies ahead for Mia and Ethan? And lastly, don't wait even one more second, share this video with 5 friends who need to hear this powerful conclusion. Your support matters.